You know, they've told me for years that you should never talk about monetary policy because it's so complex. Yeah, really complex. You print a lot of money and it loses its value. That's really complex. Yeah. But guess what? They're going to have to listen to us, and, it's pretty obvious. It's on the news every single day. You know, the dollar's going down. The dollar's getting weaker. I wonder what's happening. What are we going to do? Oh, let's print some more money and bail out the banks. You know, but it is becoming an issue. No, today gold hit record highs, but they said the gold price is high. But that is not it. The gold prices always stay the same. The value of the gold is steady. What happened is, you know, not too many years ago, probably about 100 years ago, the dollar was defined as 1/20th of an ounce of gold. Today, it's essentially 1/900th of an ounce of gold, and they wonder why the dollar is getting weak. But anyway, this is an important issue for a great deal of reasons. But the main reason why the gold standard and gold money is so important, it restrains the government from getting too involved in the economy and around the world and fighting war. Every country throughout all of history has abused the monetary system in order to finance wars that are unpopular. You know, old people declare the wars and the young people have to fight them. That's why we don't need any more of those wars. We need to get our troops home and get back to a sensible foreign policy. You know, it really frightens me about what is happening. And, you know, a lot of times they will use sort of an incident to stir them people up, build up the war fever, get the people to accept this notion we have to go to war and we have to draft young people and all this. But, you know, this week we had a scary event. Monday morning, I believe it was, there was an announcement. There were a couple speedboats, you know, 30-foot long. And the American government said, oh, they're threatening us. We better do something about it. Speedboats with submachine guns on it. But you know, this whole idea that there could be a precipitating event like that scares the living daylights out of me, because some in Congress in Washington today want to spread this war. We want to end this war. We don't want the war to spread in the Middle East. You know, the other day I was on Tim Russerd's program, and he asked me 1, 2, 3 questions in a row, and, you know, and one was the question about the CIA, and I was about half a sentence into it, and he wanted to go on to the next subject. I said, no, let me finish the sentence about the CIA. I'll tell you, the country does need some intelligence scouting, but what we need is a lot more intelligence in Washington interpreting the intelligence that we get. And we don't need any more distortion of the CIA reports. But we don't need a it's all right to collect intelligence, but we don't need a secretive CIA that wages war behind the scenes, picking and choosing dictators around the world, getting us into trouble, and we've been doing that for way too long. You know, we're already involved in nation building in 2 significant countries, which serves nothing more than to stir up more hatred toward us, so we are less free by being in those countries, meddling in their affairs. And also, it means that there's a much greater threat to our terrorism, and someday we'll wake this country up and get everybody to understand. I believe the people are way ahead of the politicians, and in Washington, that this threat of terrorism doesn't come because we're free and prosperous. It comes because we meddle when we shouldn't be meddling. And this isn't new. It was started a long time ago. In 1953, our CIA participated in the overthrow of an elected leader in Iran and put in the Shah, and we have suffered consequences and continue to. We're still involved there. But what about what we're doing in Pakistan right now? We have our own CIA agents in there picking and choosing which dictator we're going to bombard with more American dollars. I say, let them declare and decide who they want to run their countries. We shouldn't be telling which dictator we're going to take more American taxpayers' money and finance them. And you know, and one thing with certainty, if the war spreads, they will need more men and women. That means it isn't an accident they keep the selective service on the board and that they have bills in the Congress. Let us declare that we will not accept a military draft for any of their warmongering. This is coming to an end. It should come to an end because we act wisely and have proper government, have the proper people in Washington, but it will end because we can't afford it. Great empires, great nations succumb to the temptation to spread themselves too far. They are never conquered militarily, hardly ever at least. The Soviet Union came down not with a military confrontation, but by an economic weakness. And that is what we're facing today. That is what the weak dollar is telling us today, that we cannot finance this, but what we need to do is come up wisely and say, look, let's not wait for a catastrophic economic events. Let's come home and save the money. We spend nearly $1 trillion a year with our foreign empire around the world. Money we don't have, the only way we can finance it currently is we're financing it by borrowing from China. I think let us end the days where we are dependent on China for our own financing. We don't need that. But if we would do this wisely, actually we could have a transition period where we can take care of those who are dependent on the programs that shouldn't have existed in the first place, but we don't need to put people out in the street. But if we continue to do this, the people who are barely hanging on will be out in the street because our dollar is going down in value, and no matter how much you try to keep up with it, if you have lack of productivity and lack of prosperity, just creating new money just makes the problem that much worse. Our seniors, the people who are in retirement now, their inflation rate is 10 or 12%, and they get boosted in Social Security by 2%. And then we wonder why they're complaining and having trouble making it. The only way this can be solved is cutting huge sums back. And we can do this. Not only can we cut this, if we cut enough from this overseas spending, we get an additional benefit because it would save so much money that we wouldn't even need an income tax at all.